They can't hide it. Visual Disturbance can't hide it. Let's get into this one tonight, folks. This is going to be a doozy. Let's go.
I've got one that can see.
Welcome, everybody, back to Visual Disturbance. I'm your host, Brian Reese, and I want to thank you and welcome all walks of life to this broadcast tonight. Those of y'all that have been watching me and following me for a while, yeah, that's right, I've been going through a lot of things. I'm just going to throw a few little announcements out here. I had to endure today. I had to really push myself, and I made a commitment to my guest that I'm getting ready to announce here in a few moments. And I've been kind of going through some things with some teeth issues. My jaw feels like it's going to fall off. Yes, it has been kind of a nuisance to me, but guess what you don't know about me? I am a stubborn individual. And when I put my mind to something, I endure to the end with my teeth falling out. So thank you all so very much for the prayers and all the love and support. People have donated to me to help with the cause and the need for my teeth procedure because I had to reach out to you guys. I felt really shameful. I really did. I didn't know where to turn to. A lot of people have reached out to me and blessed me with that, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to be able to get that endeavor taken care of because it's an insane amount of money that's involved with that. But tonight I had to really push myself, and I know there's an individual out there that I wanted to give praise to and give a little bit of shout out to is my lovely uncle. And I call him that because he's like my brother and like my dad figure. So big shout out to my uncle. A couple weeks ago, here I am dealing with all this stuff and all my infirmities for a long period of time, and he's had been there with me, right by my side, helping me out in every situation, walk of life. And a few weeks ago, he suffered a really bad stroke, and it put him down, and now he's in a facility trying to fight to get out of there. So big shout out to Uncle William Stone, if you want to pray for him. Big shout out to him and his new friend. He's found a new friend there at the facility. I haven't got to meet him yet, but his name is Trevor Shoemaker. So big shout out to those guys. I hope they get out of there very soon and do some recuperating with this from these strokes that they have had that have, let's just say, taken their life upside down and flipping it. And I know very well how that can happen in our reality because it's happened to me, and it's been such a long road traveled, and I'm still dealing with the remnants of it today. So other than that, hit all the links in the description box. I want to share something out there with you guys. There's an individual that is on the air with me tonight. We've been wanting to get together for a long period of time. He was on some shows with me on the Rip It. There was a Rip It platform that I once upon a time was part of. It's somewhere out there in the cyberspace of things, but he's going to help me out to facilitate this. He's going to be the honorary co-host tonight to help me out when I'm, let's just say, having some teeth issues. And it's part to give me the rest of my jaw when we're going to be talking about this material about the UFO disclosure and all the UFO documents and the things. There's nothing new under the sun when we always talk about it here on the channel. I just want to thank you all for being here, but we want to announce with the big old announcement here, the individual that has took time out of his day to be on here with the Visual Disturbance. First time on the channel. First time, but I've known Cody for several years now, and he's a really cool dude. So I'm going to introduce Cody Cox to the Visual Disturbance channel. How the heck are you, Cody? Welcome with open arms, man, to the channel. How are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you, and feel blessed to be in the opportunity you've given me tonight, man. So thank you for having me.
It is nothing but an honor, Cody. Nothing but an honor, man. The honor is all mine. Let's just jump into this, Cody. Let's go down the rabbit trail. Let's talk about can they hide this information? This information that is, let's just say, bursting out of the seams and coming through every cracks and crevice when it comes to the three-letter agencies and government officials, what have it. You know it. It's going on down, up and down in some type of insanity. And I'm glad you're doing well, because we're going to have a doozy tonight. We're going to take it down into the they can't hide it no more, and then we're going to talk about the projects that have happened in our past. Let's just go ahead and jump down into it. If there's anything else you want to say something else there, Cody, before we move on? What would you like to say? Anything else you got on your mind before we start off?
Man, I'm just ready to see what you got for all of us, and ready to learn a little bit, put my input on some stuff, and get her going.
Let's fire it off then. Okay, everybody. So let's just go down the past. Let's go back to Project Blue Book. A lot of people talk about Project Blue Book, and a lot of people out there are well versed on the topic when it comes to unidentified flying objects. And let's just go down the road with this Project Blue Book, code name for this, let's just say, systematic study of unidentified flying objects, UFOs. And this was conducted in the United States Air Force from 1952 to 1969. And I want to emphasize the 50s, okay? A lot of things went down in the 50s, okay? And this is a place, headquarters of Wright-Patterson Air Base in Ohio, not too far from me, believe it or not. And when you look at the whole thing, the whole situation that went down with that, it was over a 17-year run, and the Project Blue Book compiled of 12,618,000 UFO reports. The vast majority of these sightings were eventually blamed on misidentified conventional phenomenon like weather balloons, aircraft, astronomical events, stars, planets, meteorites, etc., and even temperature inversions. So, when I think about temperature inversions, Cody, I think about just what the temperature inversions, the temperature changes, what is going on under the earth and above the earth that is causing these disruptions. And I think as far as these flying saucers and quote, and what happened here at the Project Blue Book, I think there's some very compelling evidence here, because I spoke many times here on the channel about the astronomer studying from 1948, I think, to 1949, all the way to the 1950s, early 60s, talking about something above our skies. And it makes you wonder, what was they really doing at the Blue Book? And you think about the tug of war between these public relations and management of genuine scientific inquiry, and that ties back to Captain Edward, I think it's called Reppilt, and Dr. J. Allen Hynek. So that's an astrophysicist that was hired at the Air Force and a scientific consultant to debunk or explain many cases. And a lot of people were skeptic back then, okay? So, but what I want to put in the emphasis here, Cody, and all audience out here, it comes in waves. Anything from the 1947 all the way up to modern time. We have Lockheed Martin information out there way back in the day coming out now, talking about they kind of concealed some imagery of some craft for 60 years, and here we've had that been released here just recently. So it's just very interesting me with the whole concept of UAP, UFO, and then the whole UFO phenomenon, these anomalies. Let's just take a really deep question here before we move on. What do you think about this, Cody? We got military personnel. We got some type of hidden perspective. Is there people out there in the know with this phenomenon? Is it tied back to human sources from the ancient antiquity days? What do we got here? Do we have something that is tied back to this close encounters classification system? It's called CUFOs, I think, or CUFOs, if you want to pronounce it that way. And what is going on with the scientific data? And what do we have today that is really resonating the minds? Because we have to think, why now? Why are they presenting this material? Why are they pushing the UFO agenda? What do you think, Cody?
Oh, man, I think that the year is definitely telling. The 40s, there was a pop-in time period for that stuff. I mean, even before that with Harry S. Truman and the MJ-12. Then you have Dwight D. Eisenhower and the stuff that they were dealing with. I mean, it was just kind of ramping up right then. Even talks with Oppenheimer and Eisenhower and Einstein regarding these crafts and beings from what they were thinking were other star systems and stuff. So it seemed to have been a very hot topic. And I think it's obviously from ancient antiquity for sure. I think they knew more than what they were telling, but what you're talking about with the the temperature differences, some of that stuff is just very intriguing, especially with the correlation of how it reacts to metals in the atmosphere, underground. I mean, the kind of rabbit trails are endless, but I definitely think it's fascinating.
What's fascinating to me, Cody, is even the late 1960s, there was pressure was mounting to close this project, and then there was an Air Force commission by University of Colorado, and a lot of things go out there in the western part of the states. There's a lot of phenomenons. I mean, all ancient, let's just say Native American culture, everything out there, as far as ley lines, etc. You name it, you got it. As far as tunnel systems, you're out there in Texas, and I could only imagine what you got going on up underneath your land that you live upon. And this whole thing with the Colorado thing is very intriguing with me because the physicist is called. His name was Edward Calden to conduct an independent review, and it was released 8 years later. Condon concluded that nothing of scientific value had come from the study of UFOs, and that the further research was unjustified, using the report as a political cover. Secretary of the Air Force Robert Siemens, that's what it says, Jr., official terminated Project Blue Book on December the 17th, 1969. So it's a little bit, what, give or take 9 years before Star Wars came out. Hello, George Lucas. But it's just kind of interesting how this all ties in. And I've looked at many studies on weather patterns and aqua life, Navy circuits out there in the water. I mean, we've talked about it, I think, years ago on the platform Rip It. And when I look at this and I focus on the Blue Book, it's the timing on it is compelling to me because it's uncanny that the timing is really kind of matching up with CERN, matching up with like a bunch of excursions, a bunch of topography that goes back to ancient times. Even when it comes into, we can get up to a debate about how the world is shaped. We can get into all that. We're not really going to take too deep into that rabbit trail. But what I'm saying is, all these circuits and everything these Navy operatives talk about, there's something in the water. There's something on the dry land. There's strategic locations that have, let's just say, been masquerading around as, let's just say, recreational areas where things are just masking something, hiding something, but deep down underneath the earth, probably God only knows how far deep down. I've heard 150,000 feet, and that no joke, 150,000 feet. There's secret experimental hybridization programs, you name it, they got it, so to speak, what have you. It's like a Star Wars, Star Trek, and possibly some type of, let's just say, Independence Day with Will Smith mixed in the mix with, let's just say, Thundercats. Okay, but yeah, so these things, back in 1969, the official military summary was stating that no UFO reported, investigated, and elevated by the Air Force has even been conducted to indication of the threat of national security. So it's interesting. There has been no evidence submitting or disclosed or discovered during this of the Air Force that these sightings are representative of technological developments and principles beyond the range of modern scientific knowledge. So, and then it even goes back to say there has been no evidence indicating these sightings are extraterrestrial vehicles. So what are they? This was back in the day. This is what they're talking about back in the day. So we can get into, our family's tree line. Look, they was implementing in 1947 in Russia, and then by America, by the 50s and 60s, pretty much if you was a wealthier type of family, you had a TV in your house. And then they're pushing the rabbit ear technology, all these different things that was going on, and trying to, let's just say, bring forth information and knowledge in a different way through let's just say, media or videography, and some things to, let's just say, frames per second to show you more than what you get, than what you think you get. So I'm thinking, if I was a betting man, that we're looking at the Gray Decree. You mentioned Eisenhower earlier, around the 1940s, 1950s, that time frame. And we're looking at something here, and even the times of the 1947 event, talking about when the Book of Enoch started really, let's just say, recurring back upon the earth. There was a lot of time on that, and that whole, we're not going to get down into the government stance and all the different continents and all that, but it was interesting. All this stuff hit at the exact same time. And we haven't really, I don't get too far upon myself here, but Roswell was around the same time. So we have all this indication of a time window. So what is it, Cody? What do you think? What do you really think? I mean, you're in Texas right now, in the South, probably burning up, or maybe rain, snow, sleet, hail, tornado, vortex. What is it? Sinkhole underneath your house? What the heck is going on, man? Do we have an incursion of alien activity? Yes, we do. What are you seeing in the skies, man? You seen any kind of phenomenon, any kind of flying rolls like I see up here in the good old Bluegrass State? What you got going on up in the skies, in Texas?
Man, a lot of chemtrails, a lot of just insane weather manipulation. But yeah, what you were saying, I think it's also telling, those years you've got the Manhattan projects, they're working on like some serious weaponry with the atomic bombs and stuff like that. But right before that, in 46, well, right after the atomic bomb, but in 46, you got Aleister Crowley's Babylon workings and, opening up portals in the ritualistic portals to, through Enochian occult magic, and not closing those doorways back up. I think it was just an amalgamation of coming at it from all sorts of different points. And you mentioned the bloodlines. You mentioned um, going down deep into the earth. I think that that's kind of all back to the lineage of Cain. I mean, he was a vagabond in the earth. I believe the Bible gives us these hints that he was going subterranean all the way back from those days. And so I think that's an area of the inner earth that's been explored since antiquity. And I think even while you were talking about it, it reminded me of a verse in Amos where the prophet even acknowledges that humans were, going down. It's in Amos 9:2. And he says, though they dig into hell, thence shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, then will I bring them down. And though they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, I will search and take them out thence. And though they be hid from my sight in the bottom of the sea, thence will I command the serpent, he shall bite them. So it's something that we don't really think of, I guess, like in modern times. Now it's coming up to light, but this is something that God sees. He sees the depths of this and the deception. And I think that especially in the 40s, Hitler and a lot of the Third Reich projects, they were studying a lot of this stuff. So I think they've been all up in all these underground tunnels and underneath the oceans. I mean, we're running cables underneath the ocean. We're doing deep sea excursions. They're just they're not telling everyone everything, but I think it's about as ancient as it gets.
Man. Whew. So subterranean realms, aqua life, maybe look at the terminology of marine kingdom, and we could go down some rabbit holes with this, right? So I've been doing some digging into the Maganagi codices, and I've looked, and me and David has talked about, in private about it, speaking about the depths of the ocean, the deep, the great deep, these entities in the great waters of the deep. And I even alluded on that platform, and I talked about what if that they bring the waters of the deep inland. Just think about what I'm saying, inland, and possibly all this might be tied to AI and possibly back to ancient antiquity with gates and portals and stargates, what have you, whatever you want to put it in the English translation. But it is a spiritual component to it. There's something about an energy grid of some shape or form. And it's interesting to me. I don't know why we even go down this rabbit trail, but we are. The inner earth concept and the hollow earth theory really intrigued me a lot, Cody. And when I think about what is going on right now, there's a big uptick in Kentucky. I don't know about Texas. I don't know. You might have a lot going on over there, but a big uptick of sinkholes. Okay. A lot of people in the know, out there are saying that they're saying that these sinkholes have anomalous type of mentality. There was a big podcast out there talking about, talking about they put this man found this sinkhole and he was using it as a garbage disposal. Okay, the neighborhood, the local neighbors, everybody was taking trash, appliances, anything that they could throw away, and it was just an endless bottomless pit. So the weird story was, just paraphrasing here, and forgive me, the the line that they kept, they had a rope or something or string, and they supposedly, the story was 16 miles, and it never hit the bottom of the so-called Cinco. Okay, wink, wink. You know, it kind of makes you give it away. Who's got 16 miles worth of rope or string? Anybody out there? Comment below or comment in the chat. I don't think anybody does. But here's the thing: they never hit the bottom. So basically what happened, these, let's just say the men in black show up and they kind of confiscate the land, and according to the account, summarizing, that there was individuals either losing track of time and started having, there was anomalous things. They started hearing voices and hearing radio signals that was predated, no joke, back in the 40s, 50s. So there was some type of weird, like, spiritual thing here tied with, like I mentioned, rabbit ears, but something to do with ham radios. Wink, wink, if you can see my eyeballs. It's kind of interesting when the people have to have a license to handle a ham radio. So it's kind of interesting because they don't want you to pick up what's coming up from underneath the earth. So my theory is on this that there's supernatural water, end quote, primary water, underneath the earth. And once these sinkholes break loose, it's not on the city water line, okay, folks? It's not on the 150-year-old line that's been laid for a long period of time. They're still trying to work on that out and renovate the lines of the water. Come on, folks. I'm thinking there's something under the ground that's back to the days of Noah or even before that has been submerged, like you're talking about, like a subterranean realm that this water, the waters of the deep, come up or they don't come up or they start wielding out the some type of formation to make these circular. And a lot of times they're very perfectly circled. I can't get over that. Have you thought about that? They're like almost in circumference, totally a circle, and that just blows my mind. Like it's never kind of jagged. It doesn't look like a triangle or kind of cut off to the side and kind of horizontal, vertical. It goes in different. It doesn't look like an earthquake happened. It's just this perfectly circled sinkhole. So it's been going on a lot here in Kentucky in the last, I don't know, give or take, it's been happening a lot, probably the last 10 years, but it's been an uptick ever since all these, let's just say, weather anomalies and let's just say crafts in the sky and earthquakes in diverse places. I mean, you name it, man. And I just wanted you to know your take on that. Could we be looking at something that is, we're missing the point? Maybe there's something like they don't want us to dig. They don't want you digging. I remember in Russia, Siberia, they said they dug too deep and they started hearing screams. I don't know if you remember me doing a show on that. I think me and you was talking about that on one time. So what's going on? Is there some type of time dilation situation going on up in underneath the dirt or some shape or form? And is that why the powers that be don't want us digging and they have to play cover up when these things happen? I mean, come on, what's going on here?
Man, I mean, well, it reminds me of a book, Vril, The Coming Race. I think it was written in the 1870s, but it talks about just this, like a group of guys going down and kind of spelunking and coming upon like an inner earth type deal. But I mean, even the new stuff, when you look at the pyramids and stuff, like those massive pillars and columns beneath them, you see depths that you didn't really ever think. You learn in school, oh, you go down and then it gets really hot and there's the magma core and all that. But, I doing gardening with, like electromagnetic gardening and, understanding kind of the toroidal energy field that the earth creates through electromagnetism and our atmosphere, and the ground and how energy works, how water retains memory, but how it's excitable. There's so much just about the earth and the elements that we don't understand that the ancients did. And a lot of times you'll notice like that pyramids will be right next to a water source, or they would have underground aquifers, whether it was them attempting to copy the Most High and how he has the, rivers coming from his throne or whatever. There's a lot more to the underground than we understand. And you bringing up the water, the marine kingdom stuff. I know, you and David have talked about it in previous broadcasts, but just the idea of when the flood occurred, the creatures and stuff that were in the water that could survive in the water, I don't believe perished. It talks about, those that had the breath of life on the face of the earth died. But, we don't really understand what survived under the water that didn't need to be in an ark. And then we have to also be aware of the fact that all flesh was corrupted at that point. So stuff had been intermingling. You start to look at these different types. I'm sure it'll come up later in the broadcast, but the different types of entities that people are talking about, the different races or whatever. You look at different ancient Indians and stuff like that, their mythologies and stuff. But there's these hybridizations of things that they say came from the earth or came up from the water, or even the UAPs that are coming out now, where it's just straight up orbs popping up out of the ocean. So I think there's so much literally under the surface that it would just blow our minds.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Would you think of because we both agree that God created man and female. We would both agree that God has created other things also, like what you alluded to, because that talks about that before the days of Noah. There's obviously things that we don't have, or we're not privy to that knowledge. We don't have all the information in front of us. But we could say, hey, there was giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, here we are in the coming Son of Man. We're looking at the things that are coming upon the earth. Men's hearts will fail them, looking after the things. And here we are talking about something popping out of a jolly green giant coming out of a sinkhole. It looks like a big toilet bowl, but hey, what do you know what I'm saying? So I have to say, would you say that humans, our design of our anatomy, would you say that we've been taught certain things like frequency and harmonics and that type of, let's just say, magnetic field that circumferences us? There's something about the pineal gland that ties to this earth and the circumference of that. We could talk about something. I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to talk about that here in a second, the orb concept. So speaking of the Wright-Patterson, the Hynek, talking about the astrophysicists, all these things that go back to the 40s and 50s, and looking at the star system, the constellations, thinking about what is and what isn't, and trying to use the scientific data to really reach in and dig into a more depth than we've ever had before. And that's what I'm going to try to do tonight. I want to try to really take it down some, not rabbit trails, but bring some information that maybe a lot of people haven't ever figured out or understood. So I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about this real quick. Cody, I'm going to bring a slide up here, and I'm showing you guys the Merkaba, okay? The first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about orbs and everything, when it comes to the constellations and the Vimanas and the Orphanas. And Cody, let's just have some fun here doing this. What would you say, and this is what if, and I don't want to take away or add to anything or disrespect any type of literature out there, but if I was an intuitive redneck from the bluegrass state, and I thought about this cognitively, this Merkaba really drives it home, and could humans be tied to it directly? And when you think about the Ezekiel's wheels and wheels, and you look at the verse that it talks about in the cherubim, it looks, I think it's in 15, let me see, Ezekiel 10, I think, and I lost my place, but it says, and I think it's Ezekiel's 10:9. And when I look, behold, did you want to read it, Cody? Did you want to read it or something?
Yeah. I was saying you were on it. I think it was chapter 10 or 11. I couldn't remember.
10:4. Well, when you look at this, and it says, and when I looked, behold, there was 4 wheels by the cherubims, and one wheel by one cherub, and another wheel by another cherub. And the appearance of the wheels was the color of beryl stone. And I thought about the appearances. It says their appearances of 4 had one likeness, as a wheel that had been in the midst of the wheel. And then it goes on talking about when they went upon their 4 sides. They turned not as they went, but to that place whither the head looked, they followed it. They turned not as they want, and their whole body and their backs and their hands and their wings and their wheels were full of eyes around them, even the wheels that had their forehead, right? And I was just thinking about it, Cody, just throwing this out here. What if we're missing something that is so tied to the ancients? And there's a lot of shamans out there, mysticism that goes on. The mystics knew about this. Even the Vedas, they knew about things. And why is this whole UFO phenomenon is fighting us? It's coming out, this whole disclosure movement. But Ezekiel and all these guys from the biblical narrative are going, hey, that's a cherub. Hey, I see the eyes or what have you. And my thought on this, not to add or take away, but when I think about the appearances and how they're trying to illustrate it and articulate it in their time frame, could it be the eyes? It could look like eyes to them. It could have been like they alluded to in the UFO documents. There's Ophanum, the wheels and the wheels. The Ophanum had the eyeballs. There was a depiction that Anna Paulina Luna was literally, let's just say, not promoting, or pushing on X. It was very intriguing to me that she was talking about that. And she's been talking about the Book of Enoch, pushing everybody to go read the Book of Enoch. And I'm over here going, okay, magnets. I'm over here going the movie Contact from 1997. We talked about it here on the show, just the last few shows. And it's intriguing to me that could we be looking at technology? Could we be looking at something far past our pay grade? Absolutely. But Ezekiel and all these guys knew what was going on. Well, let's talk about it, Cody. Let's just go from the Ezekiel narrative and let's look into the whole principle of. Let's just see here if I can pull up my notes. One moment here, folks. But the whole Ezekiel concept and the Merkabah really got my attention. So when you look at Merkabah, right, it's the concept from sacred geometry, okay, mysticism, like we talked about a minute ago. And it's described, Cody, an audience, as a vehicle of light, okay? A spiritual chariot that facilitates ascension, higher consciousness, and interdimensional travel. Boom. Nothing else to say, right? They're alluding to this, that the powers that be, these alien entities, these Greys, these Nordics, these Draconians, they're reptilians, they're interdimensional. Why is the Merkabah basically described as a vehicle of light, a spiritual chariot? In Ezekiel, it talks about the fiery chariots from heaven. What are we looking at here? When you look in Hebrew, Merkabah literally means a chariot, a thing to ride. It originates in the Jewish mysticism. Okay? So when you look at this, let me see if I can pull this up. When you look at the description of the chariot, the throne, goes back to the biblical narrative of Ezekiel's 1, and you look at the Egyptian interpretation, there's always the Egyptian stance, okay? If you break it down, Mer, light, Ka, spirit, soul, and Ba, body. Thus, light, spirit, body, a unified energy vehicle. So, I'm not a gambler, Cody. I don't gamble. But if I'm looking up in the sky right now, and I'm seeing something that's an aerial phenomenon, and I'm going back to the days of the 40s and 50s where they was taking the, let's just say, electromagnetic, let's just have some fun and wordplay here with some, so I won't get in trouble, but let's just say they was putting some type of device on folks and doing a little MK, and a little three-letter agency was popping some neurons and lighting some things up and trying to overstimulate the body, overstimulate the brain. Hemisync, right? You're looking into opening up your third eye, you're merging your left hemisphere, your right hemisphere, and you're wanting to merge them together and get 100% access and have supernatural abilities, right? Like, seriously. And this is all military. You can look at Stargate Project, all that. So we have the Merkabah, the unified energy, these early Jewish esoteric traditions involving like ascending to heavenly places, okay, and in quote, the throne of God. And when you think about the shapes in the sacred geometry, what do you think about that before I move on too deep? What do you think about the Merkabah? Are we looking at something that when David Wilcock, that just lost his life recently, and he's talking about the source field? I mean, the guy was a genius, okay? I've been reading some of his books. The source field, he's talking about that 160,000, I can't believe he had the number, Cody. I can't believe he had a precise number. He said 160,000 individuals was able to harness and get this light body. And it's literally what you're talking with these orbs and the Merkabah, and I'm feeling like it's the same core. It's all tied in. It's all interconnected. There's nothing new about this. There's nothing new. And I think David Wilcox had literally full-blown understanding. I mean, he even might have seen it because he was involved in exotic propulsion systems and the let's just say the space company that he was involved with, the director of that. So it's really interesting to me. So what do you think about that? The esoteric understanding, the Merkaba. Are we looking at something here that goes back to antiquity and the ancients knew about it, and we're just playing catch up now? And it's principalities, it's wickedness, there's demons, there's humans, there's extraterrestrials, ultra terrestrials, the full meal deal on this. It must be everybody involved. I think it's like that. They've already said there's 4 different species, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. There's more actually, but there's 4 species that's supposedly known to Earth. End quote. And what do you think about that with the Merkaba stuff?
Man, the description about how when the cherub moves in Ezekiel and the wheel is unified with it in its movement, it doesn't turn. It makes me think about Plato in his work Critias and Timaeus. He talks about how, and this is just his opinion. This obviously is mixed in with paganism and a lot of different ideas, but it's interesting to kind of see where his thought process was at, because he viewed the stars and the heavenly bodies as having a soul and being constant revolutions, and that there was the circle of heaven that was perfect, and the revolutions of the bodies were the kind of expression of perfection. I think it's really interesting whenever you think of like cymatics. Have you looked into that, like the effect of frequency on different things? So when you look at a star through a really good camera, it looks like how cymatics look with water and sound and frequency or sand or whatever. So I know not all of the listeners on the channel hold a biblical cosmology or an ancient cosmological view, but the biblical understanding where the firmament does separate the waters above and the waters below, it would make sense for that appearance. I think you brought it up with the Egyptian idea. Their understanding of the underworld, the duat, they understood like cosmic waters, and they understood the traveling of the soul. They would depict it in different ways, like maybe it was a hawk leaving the pharaoh's body or whatever. But they understood the journey of the Ka, like you expressed. But it had to first enter into the underworld. There's a text called the Book of the Gates, and at each gate, these pharaohs would interact with a different entity, a lot of times serpentine in nature, but all through this opening in the ground to get to the afterlife. But that was the entrance. So I think it's 100% all tied together. I think that our government was, and like you said, three-letter agencies with the gate programs, talking about astral traveling, astral projection, how you can allow your soul to travel and do it through, occult means and transcendental meditation stuff. All that stuff is real and documented. I would imagine that if you were a practitioner, that if you were witnessing another practitioner in the middle of doing their traveling, it could appear as light. It could appear as a vehicular geometric shape. Before I was doing the broadcast with you today, I've been praying that the Father would show me where my purpose and kind of my offering to this broadcast would be. Like, what's something that He's shown me that would be of use to the listeners. And my past was littered with the stuff, the shamanism stuff, like the DMT stuff, all that mysticism. Whenever I was in my search for to truly know the one true God, I researched into a lot of that stuff. And when you get into the geometric shapes, interacting with these entities, like what you're talking about, man, it really comes down to that this tech, even as ancient as it more than likely is, which I believe it is, even after these giants passed away, their souls and spirit, they were disembodied spirits. So they're still influencing mankind, still showing them these things, showing them how to make different things happen. Different rituals now are a lot easier to do just using psychedelic drugs, things that you would have to do full blown rituals in ancient Egypt and involving cannibalism and all this stuff. Now you can ingest a substance and interact with those same entities. So I think that the possibilities of it are endless. I think that definitely there is probably actual vehicular travel, like Vimanas and stuff. But then also, I think just seeing a soul in transit like that would be something wild. But it all does remind me of each other. The idea with Plato, the idea of these orbs, the idea of stoichion, elemental spirits, even just anchoring of entities to specific stars. I don't believe that planets are an inhabitable space. I believe that they are a um, something much different. And so I think that that's the good thing with the scriptures, is that it kind of anchors us in the midst of all this chaos to what we can know for a fact is true, and what's off limits to us as believers. But it's fascinating, man. I think it's definitely ancient for sure.
What if let's just have fun here, because this is the open to all walks of life channel. Okay, everybody out there, hit the subscribe button, share this thing out. Welcome to Visual Disturbance. We welcome all walks of life here, even the draconians, the reptilians, the whole flock. Just show up to the broadcast. Okay, hit the like button. And I'll just say this, Cody. When I'm listening to you, astral travel, DMT, LSD, I'm thinking what a lot of people talk about, they see reptilians. They see reptilians. I'm just going to be honest. There's a lot of people out there not really talking about the reptilians. But the shamans of old, they was talking about the raptor-like entities chasing them. It would scare them to death. And then these entities would tell them what to do in their astral projected realm. And they'd come back and bring forth knowledge with them, and it would help them in their human body, their human advantage. They would have knowledge that would go beyond the local, let's just say, tribal man. Okay, and then they would be able to do things, metallurgy, you name it, do some miraculous things, be up beyond the pay grade. Okay, so that's all documented too. You can even tie that back to the Knights of, the King Arthur days. Okay, I know that's not really that's a pretty hard topic there, but the Knights of the Templar, and I would say, what if the orbs and the stuff that we're seeing up in the sky, what if they're physical and spiritual and something else in between? And maybe these vehicles, these Merkabahs, are possibly a place to reside, but it's a carrier.
Mhm.
It's a physical thing that can go to and fro and move. So it might be one of those things, because I even heard when you look at the Vedas and go back to the Black Sun, you see that there's things that are inside the earth coming to and fro. There's some type of extra sun. There's all these things that tied to the, let's just say, the Nazi bell. So it's all interesting to me. It's way out there into the atmosphere. Well, speaking of atmosphere, let's add another element to this Merkaba, okay? This whole thing blew my mind when I think about this. The star of the tetrahedron is a crystalline field of information that is resonating linked with each cell of the physical body in its inactive state. The star tetrahedron appears as a three-dimensional star of David, composed of two opposing and interlocking tetrahedrons. We're not going to get too far down the weeds here, my friend, but I want to throw out one topic, one individual that resonates with me when it comes to this, and I'm not talking about anything modern. I read a lot about Thoth, okay, the Emerald Tablets, okay? And when I look at this tetrahedron and look at this, let's just say, star, and every time Thoth would show the star, he could either manipulate or control or give knowledge to the people with this tetrahedron. Okay, so we have crystalline field, we have crystals in our ears, we have literally things that are biologically we can't remove, and God created them there for a special purpose. So this crystalline field really got my attention, and looking at the tetrahedron, and let's just talk about it real quick. We're looking at an interlocking three-dimensional tetrahedrons that's called, let's just say, quote, triangle pyramids that rotate in opposing direction, in opposite directions, okay? One tetrahedron points upward, often associated with spirit, masculine energy. The other points downward, body, feminine, earth energy. Okay? Together they form a 3D star representing You got to forgive me, folks. My mouth is falling off. A 2D Star of David, but in 3 dimensions. This creates, Cody, this creates a spinning energy field around the body. Now, that's what it says. Believed to balance opposites and connect physical and, in quote, spiritual realms. So, let's just have fun here. This New Age concept, the Merkaba represents the union of opposites light, body, spirit, matter, male, female. Protective energy field or light body surrounding a person. A vehicle, in quote, vehicle, consciousness expansion, astral travel, ascending to these high dimensions, okay? Activation through meditation, what we were talking about just a few seconds ago with the shamans and the mystics. Visualization, breathing techniques, the Merkaba meditation intention of supposedly aligning the energy field for healing, protection, and spiritual awakening. Well, this is what's really going to take us down into some deep into the weeds here, folks. If you've never heard any of this stuff before, just hang on to your seats. It gets kind of crazy, okay? So not only do we have this Merkaba light vehicle, okay, this whole concept of the Merkaba and these tetrahedrons, there's something spinning. There's some kind of understanding of 8 points, okay? There's these geometric sacred knowledge. We have geometry. We have something here that it goes back to the ancient days, and a lot of it's been incorporated in religious imagery and all kinds of other forms and walks of life when it comes into, you name it, Hebrew, Egyptian, New Age traditions. That last one, you notice how I said that. So when you think about this and you think about the comparisons of it, you look at it and you really have the eyes that sees and the ears to hear on this, there is a connection. There's something that is tied to these 8 points. There's 7 points in one case, and there's 8 points, and we're going to get into that. So hang on to your seat, folks, and I don't know if you can see it on the screen, Cody, but if you can, I apologize for that. But hey, welcome to Visual Disturbance, folks. But yeah, the tetrahedron, 3-dimensional star. And you know there's other information out there, Cody, and audience out there, that you have to have these tetrahedrons to power these ships. I've heard everything under the sun, but then you have to ask yourself, where the heck do I find a tetrahedron? Well, we're going to show you right here on the show here. So hang on to your seat, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and I'm going to show you all something that I've showed many times here on the visual disturbance side of things. We've talked about this many times here. Full body teleportation system. Yeah, that's right. It's literally it's a patent out there. It was publicized date. Excuse me, published date April the 6th, 06, folks, 2006. Full body teleportation system is John Quincy St. Clair. And this is literally, let's just give the abstract of it, a pulse of gravitational wave, a wormhole, generator system that can teleport a human being through hyperspace from one location to another. Yeah, there you go. And what's interesting here, Cody, they have the depictions and the diagrams of a plane, a tree, and 2 people going, or the same person from E to G jumping, and they're labeling all these other specific objects. And if you read more into it, we're just going to really touch base on it. We're not going to get too much into it. I want to show the diagram of the human body here, the human anatomy, and you can see 8 points. Okay, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, you know, I'm just thinking, you know, tinfoil hat individual out here that just likes to go sniff around and look at things in a different way. And the way my world is, I do see things in a different perspective. And you see these 2, well, I know you can't see it, Brother Cody, but we're going to talk about it and just there's 2 obelisks. There's always obelisk involvement with this, and even some of the individuals that went up in front of the Vatican the other day said that they found structures inside the AI, let's just say, algorithm. They're finding structures, unknown things, that the AI, there's something about consciousness or something tied to this. It's crazy, folks, okay? Crazy that this is all happening with that. That was just literally, I think, proposed or just a day or 2 ago with the Vatican. So when you see these 2 obelisks and you see the H in the middle, there's something there that can be teleported or transformed or transported. And basically the invention is it's very simple. It just teleports a human through hyperspace from one location to using another one. Yeah, did you hear what I said? Another location. To using a pulse gravitational wave travel through hyperspace. So there's that. You have 8 points, Cody. 8 points, okay? There's 8 points of reference here, talking about the human anatomy, okay? Well, there's another document. Not only do we have this full body teleportation system, you got the 8 points. Well, could we tie it into the tetrahedron? Absolutely, more than likely, and that's what we're looking at. There's one more other application here. I've never showed this. I don't think I've only showed it once or twice, and the only time I've been online, I think the whole entire time, maybe once or twice is the third time, maybe. Walking through walls training system. No joke. Same diagram, same setup. Here we got the human anatomy here, a male figure with 8 different points, A through H. Also, this invention is called, it is a training system which enables a human being to acquire significant hyperspace energy to pull the body out of a dimension so the person can walk through solid objects such as wood doors. Hello. So, if you, here I am, and I want to throw this out here too. There's this weird imagery here on figure 3 of this document where they have a cross and there's like some type of weirdness going on here with the grave. I just don't throw it out there. Keep that in mind. We're going to be talking about the grave here in a little bit. So I don't know what they got going on with all that, but you know what that is? You know what they're calling this diagram and what these A through G is, Cody and audience out there? There's these vortices, these vortexes, and they're talking about the kundalini. They're talking about the chakras, okay? They're talking about the spinal cord, this ancient thing that goes back to the Ancient of Days. They're talking about the spinal cord, and yeah, there's a printer on here. They're talking about like footprints that can just emerge, that can show up. It almost sounds like alien to me, Cody. It almost sounds a little alien to me. Bigfoot, anybody? Anybody out there, Bigfoot? This kind of imagery where you find footprints, but you can never find Bigfoot. You find big 6 toes or big old 20-foot long, whatever the case is. It's interesting, the foot imprints. I know that you can talk a lot about that. But I just want to throw this in here real quick. I'm going to read because I don't want to go too long-winded. I'll get the floor back to you. But if you look at the background and the summary of this invention, a human being is a human being is hyperspace energy being living in a physical container. No joke. If you go back and look at I think Bob Lazar, he even says this, that we are containers. Kind of interesting that this document's out there, of a body that is compressed of 67% water. Hello, anybody out there. If we want to go down to some rabbit holes and walk off into oblivion and go into the woods with Bigfoot, I just want to show you guys something. 67% of water and AI and these data centers, they take a lot of water. Wink, wink. The highest percentage of water makes the invention possible. The hyperspace, I know it's really small. I got it zoomed up on my screen. Hello, visual disturbancers out there. The hyperspace energy being receives energy from their dimension. Just listen, from our dimension through 7 vortices, okay, that run the length of the body. Each vortex connects to a separate hyperspace dimension, having its own particular frequency. The arrangement allows the development of the 7 modular energy. Okay, components considering to mind, spirit. This is what it says: spiritual eye, voice, body, anatomy, plasma energy, in quote, ball, Merkaba, battery, the ground connection, Cody, Merkaba. They didn't say Merkaba, but you can go ahead and say it. Plasma energy ball, in quote, battery, in quotations. And then it goes on, known as the top vortex, supplies energy to the mind and provides a channel of communication to other entities in the universe. It's no full stop here, Cody, full stop. Other entities in the universe. And this channel has been tested up to 100,000 light years, which is the diameter of the galaxy. And then it talks about the vortex B, it talks about the spiritual eye and the voice, etc., on, and the body functioning. And here we go. Does anybody know where I'm going with this? Because it's going to blow your mind. So we have the Merkaba concept. We have the plasma ball energy, uses the battery, the vehicle, and they're emitting it here in this walking through walls and the full body teleportation. So there's nothing really else here that we need to prove and deep down into it because I don't want to go too long-winded. What do you think about that, Cody? How much more bizarre can we get? What is going on here, my friend? What is going on?
I mean, that's wild. It's so mind-boggling to read it in text, and it's just like you can't even argue with it when you're sitting there reading that this is talks that are occurring. It made me think of this section in the GATE program where the agency, it was on one of, I think it was like page 24 of one of these CIA documents, and it was talking about how they were finding new methods of astral projection that were more effective than transcendental meditation or previous like ancient known techniques where these guys that they were studying were utilizing. And it's talking about an absolute must project a hologram of itself and then perceive it. That hologram is a mirror image of the absolute in infinity, existing outside of time and space, but is one step removed from the absolute and the actual agent of all creation and reality. And so, you know, these government programs where they were working with these practitioners, a lot of times I wonder, there are people who work with the government who are practitioners, and they're appearing in other areas from a remote location, and they're manipulating people. They're spying on people in this spirit realm. I mean, this is something that they're utilizing. A guy I talked to, he's an old timer out here. He's extremely intelligent. I've been witnessing to him, really trying to pour into him whenever I do get to talk to him. But he does this. He has told me about astral projecting, and that the interesting thing that he's done, is he's interacted with. He says that whenever he gets into that zone, then these guides show up, and that they're the ones that kind of guide him. But that they've told him that the different specific times in his life that he almost died, that they were the ones that kept him alive, and this manipulation in the spirit. So this stepping outside of time and space, and going through, like you're talking about, solid objects and stuff, it really does make me think of what you had brought up previously, with like the DMT stuff, the ayahuasca stuff. This stuff we shouldn't be able to ingest this. Our body has receptors that shut that off, but they were shown, the Peruvians were shown by a cosmic serpent entity how to mix two separate ingredients from a vine that they called the spirit rope, and to where then it would kind of bypass those receptors, to where they could have these 8-hour long trips. And this is when they're learning these things, and it forever shapes your life from that point on. It's a huge deception. It's really becoming popular right now with people getting into these big podcasters who are pro, psychedelic research and psychedelic medicines and stuff. And I think it's important that people understand that this is a method of deception that's very powerful. And like I said in my past, I can speak from experience of having interactions with serpentine serpentine entities in what looks like you're in space, or where you're looking down at your own body, and something else crawling around looking, and it's like you're up in the air watching yourself, and you can't even really explain it. And this is that whole realm of ritualism and attempting to go into areas where we don't belong. But to hear these scientific terms and it not be something that you're reading from a shaman or something that you're reading from an ancient text. This is, scientific data. It's quite disturbing for sure.
Well, what's disturbing is what you just said, and here I am going back into my archives in my brain, what's left of it. I always have referenced this. I believe it's a documentary, Stargate SG-1, and what you just said, they have this alien-like, reptilian-like entity, and there's like a human, but here's the kicker. They're mixed with the DNA. The human didn't know it, and they can telekinesis, telepathically commute in remote view that in this entity light years away, according to the account of the TV series, and she's like trying to get it remotely control it like a puppet, and it's too strong and it overpowers her. I think it's in Stargate SG-1, or no, it's in Atlantis. Excuse me, forgive me, it's in Atlantis. But either way, it's in the Stargate series. But the Atlantis series, it talks about they're telepathically connected, and then these aliens have the ability to overpower the humans. So it's really interesting. But they're fearful of the human. It's really weird. It's like the humans have some type of supernatural ability. Hence, we are special. but these powers that be, Ephesians 6, we talked about here on the biblical narrative side of things, the principalities, wickedness of darkness, they're all just going around, going to and fro like a roaring lion, claiming that they have this territory and just setting and breaking, they're setting it through dominions, their thrones, their whatever they are, reptilians, whatever they are, and they're setting their name is called Watchers for a reason, folks, okay? They're watching, and they're trying to figure out what they can, let's just say, do to us, or maybe even take up our time or consume our time and let us divert us into not doing the things that we should be doing, and then causing us to go down some negative, let's just say, rabbit trail of insanity that doesn't even do anything to grow spiritually or physically. So there you go. So there's that. It's kind of interesting and kind of
When this,
kind of scary.
sorry,
No, you go ahead. You didn't interrupt. Go ahead. I love interrupting. Go ahead, Cody.
it made me think about there's a text. There's a text in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Testament of Amram, and it talks about how he overhears two watchers conversing regarding him, and he said that their appearance was like an adder, like a serpent. Um, we know that these watchers more than likely were seraphim in nature. I find it extremely fascinating. I've been writing on this for the last several months, and when you look at the Anunnaki and the Mesopotamian lore, one of the things where the Anunnaki are considered the judges of the underworld. And, the Greeks talk about Tartarus, how the Titans were chained in Tartarus. We know in Enoch and the biblical narrative of some of those angels that have been bound to the Euphrates. But isn't it interesting how they're not, in their lore, they're not prisoners in the underworld. They're the judges. They flipped it on its head, and I often wonder whenever you're going, on these psychedelic trips, are you stepping into the realm of what is accessible in Sheol, or, a spiritual kind of place that you're not supposed to be, where they can manipulate your perception and change, like you said, these people are thinking that they're descendants or whatever. It reminds me of the Guerrero priests of the Mexica, the Aztec, all these ancient cultures, and even not so ancient. If you look back somewhere in their religion, they were led by some sort of entity, especially the Mexica, the Aztecs. I mean, the sun god Huitzpochtli, they actually, I mean, his sister takes over for a little bit, and he kills her son, who's essentially a Nephilim, throws his heart into the river, or into a lake, and then that's where they built Templo Mayor upon. These are all certain. The whole deity list is woman of the serpent skirt, or the feathered serpent, or they have the fire serpent stick. So I think it's really interesting to see that seraphic nature of a lot of these entities as well, and to see that kind of carry over into all of this, because I think it really does start with the watchers and stuff like that.
Well, you have to ask yourself, why do they need humans to do what they need to do? You have to ask yourself that. They've already achieved everything. Or it could be just a thing for trophies. They want the souls of man. Maybe it's just a trophy. Maybe they just say, well, we can do what we want to. We've already fallen. We can do what we want. We want to capture the souls of mankind and debate about their bodies and mess with them. Or it could be something even more sinister. It could be that we could say to the level of maybe wiping out their family tree. Hello, out there whistleblowers that are scared to death to even speak about something. Yeah, and the reptilian viperous snakes that you're alluding to, visions of Amram. And, it's kind of interesting, the Jude talking about in the Bible and the devil and Michael debating over Moses' body. So, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? So it's the same kind of field narrative into some shape or form, debating over the body. Was it physical? More than likely. Was it spiritual? Absolutely. Either way, something of the emphasis putting on that body of who they was, who the bloodline of these individuals was. Something about them was special, right? So it's going to blow your mind, okay, what I'm getting ready to talk about. So not only do we have raptor-like, reptilian-like creatures and entities trying to go around, and you look at the lizard men, you look at the bald men. I think I mentioned it earlier, Mesopotamian lizard-like beings looking like something off the V series. Whew, man, I'm on. I'm trying to be on fire, but I think my axle's been ready to fall out. So I don't have any dentures or anything like that, folks. But hey, if it falls out in the middle of the floor, Cody's going to get a visual disturbance here on the show. But hey, so this Merkaba, I had to make you laugh, Cody. But hey, I actually am being serious too. So we got to look into this. So the Merkaba, we got the Merkaba concept, we got the reptilians, and I want to share something that's just got my brain thinking. Okay. We have these 7 chakras. Okay, there's 7. Let's just focus on 7. Okay, it draws energy from the lower chakras. Okay, but there's these 7. You need 7, but you need the 8th one, which is the 8th chakra, the soul star, and beyond. This activation often aligns the 7 main chakras first, and then they engaging higher ones, including the 8th. And in quotations, it's called the anchor or the launch. Just hear me out. The launch of the Merkaba into a higher dimension. The Merkaba is said to enable interdimensional travel. We just alluded to that earlier. With the 8th chakra serving as the key access point for leaving the physical plane and connecting to the light body or your soul's journey. Boom. So listen to this. You mentioned earlier there, Cody, about Aztec. I think you mentioned that. Did you mention the Aztecs? I think you did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you did. So on the screen here, I know you can't see it, my friend, but what we have here is the Aztec Sunstone. I know you're very familiar with it, and this Aztec Sunstone is very interesting to me, and especially the god that it's related to. And I thought about it. I'm just going to be very simple-minded here and not really even get into complex words. I'm just going to go full-blown hillbilly on it. But if you have this Tonisia character on the facing of this sun disk, okay, what's interesting about this sun disk there, Cody, it moves a certain way. It's called the 4 past errors, okay, in the Aztec culture. Well, what's really weird about it, okay, and I've never really focused on it, but I've just went ahead and done it this broadcast. So this represents the previous world errors, okay, for the suns that of the Aztec believe exist before our current world, ending in a cataclysm. And here's what we got here. It's hard to see on the description here, the illustration here. But 4 jaguars destroyed by jaguars, 4 wind destroyed by hurricanes, 4 rain destroyed by a fiery rain of lava, 4 water destroyed by a great flood. Well, there's your referencing of Noah's flood. Well, I just want to throw this out here. If you add them all together, you got 8, 8. I just want to throw it out there. You know, we talked about this many times, Back to the Future, going down some crazy trajectories here in this reality. I know it's a movie, yes it is, but then you look at the Aurora Borealis, you look at the snake eating the tail, you mentioned the serpentine worship, and we can go to Tenochtitlan, and not Tenochtitlan, but Chichen Itza, and they look at the serpent, the snake that goes down the pyramid. There's so many things that's tied back to that is associated with humans. And I think this is why you have the reptilians coming into the UFO phenomenon. I think it goes back to the Garden of Eden. I think it goes back to ancient antiquity. And we have things that are come upon the earth that people don't understand now, but the days of old, they understood it. But I want to throw this out here, Cody. You got 8 points. There's 8 points of references on this Aztec star. 8 points of light. 8 points. I said light. Yeah, I said it. So this other one that I have to show, this is the above imagery. I showed this on a few episodes back. This imagery on the back is the Ophanum, is what they're alluding to on the UFO disclosure documents of the Department of War. And on the bottom, we have the Shamash. We have the Mesopotamian. We have this depiction here of these little, let's just say, these individuals, these smaller humans, either worshiping a giant. But I want to focalize on the circle where there's 4. There's 4 here, 4 there's 4 points on one side, 4 points on the other, and then it equals to 8. So we have 8 points. So I want to throw this out here just to have fun, okay? 88 miles an hour, right? You look at the time reference with that. You can go to Marty McFly. You know, we can go into down into the folklore, not the folklore, but the the 1985 TV or the movie series with the trilogy of the Back to the Future. But 88 miles an hour, you got 88. You got 4 jaguars, 4 wind, 4 rain, 4 water. So you got elemental spirits, you got elemental concepts. But here's the thing I want to throw out there: there's 8 chakras. So when I thought about 8 chakras, I thought about what we just talked about earlier with the teleportation vehicle, teleportation, the Merkaba, and you teleport into an interdimensional. And you mentioned earlier, Cody, I think you mentioned the Sheol. I think you said Sheol, and I was going to say Lakas and Talas. And we mentioned this on this channel. The 3-letter agency from the 1947 talking about the flying roll. And it says right there that there's these giant men-like, human-like entities in these autonomous vehicles that are literally remotely controlling them or even physically control them, and they're contemplating living on our Earth, in our realm, end quote. And it's not even, it's looting that it's interdimensional. So, and they say they come from the Talas and the Lakas. So look out. It's going back to Hindu mythology. Same reference point. And I wanted to throw this out here when he's talking about sinkholes. What if we're looking at waters under the earth, but what if we got the understanding wrong? What if it's plasma? What if it's something on a molecular level that the water is altered underneath the ground? What if the water underneath the earth is different? What if it's different, it's altered and changed, and it's been preserved by let's just say the massive loads of dirt and different whatever, any type of element. What if the water is literally special in some shape or form, and they don't want us going down there? They don't want us even touching it. Don't want to have anything to do with it because people go missing. You look at the Grand Canyon effect. Everybody's talking about that. There's people going missing with that. They talk about, I think it's called the Rainbow Bridge. I'm talking what I'm saying. Let's just simplify it here, Cody. Vapor canopy. Vapor canopy. That's all I'm hearing in my mind. Vapor canopy. And there's something about crystal, silica dust, something to transitioning of the human anatomy, and then it does something with the spinal cord, the dimensions, and the interdimensional concept. And we're nailing it to the wall here. We got anchoring of something of the chakra. We got the soul star and beyond, and we have this understanding here of back to Mesopotamia and then the Aztecs. So I want to throw this out here. So we have this circular disc, and you know I'm going to say it. You know I'm going to go there. I had to earlier. I kind of talked about Stargate Atlantis, but here's the weird part about it. Here's the weird part about all this. So we have 8 points of reference here. We got 8 points of reference on the Shamash here, the Mesopotamian concept. And I said concept. Yeah, that's right. Anyways, but if you look at the Stargate series and it looks at there's 8 chevrons. They need 8 chevrons, and then later on there's at the beginning there's 7, then there's 8, and then there's 9. If they the longer the higher the number, the farther distance. It's so bizarre. So this literally is so compelling to me when you think about the connections with this franchise of these TV series and these movies. We have physical design, Ancient Stargate, has 9 chevrons, the newer one when it comes to Atlantis and the universe and all that. But it says like locking indicators to arrange around the ring. Chevron 1, Chevron 2, Chevron. But it's just bizarre if you don't have the right code, the right understanding, you don't make it back to Earth, or the right devices to get you to open up the gate again. Is it just, are we looking at reverse engineering the Merkaba technology, in quote, this full body teleportation system that I just showed here on the channel? We have 7 chevrons. We have 7 vortices. We have 7 vortexes. We have the 8 that literally talk about the soul chakra that can basically go beyond the physical realm, the physical body, and then transition into an interdimensional traveler. I mean, is that what I'm hearing? Is that what I'm seeing? And then these, there's people that are conspiracy theorists out there and people that are influencers and now just catching up and saying Stargate is a full-blown documentary. I've been hearing it all over X, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. And they're saying, I believe, these are people that didn't believe in anything. They say, I woke up 3 years ago. I woke up 2 years ago, and I believe that Stargate is a full-blown documentary. So here's where I'm at. We got 8 chevrons. We got this extra symbol. We have the area code, in quote. We have this distance modifier to reach another galaxy, right? We have this anchor. We have the anchor. We have to anchor ourselves to be here on Earth. We have to have this certain address to get back. And throughout the whole series, they're dialing into Atlantis. They're dialing into Pegasus galaxy. They're dialing into these intergalactic jumps. And it requires massive power. So hello out there, everybody, when you think about AI technology. I just sit here on the channel. More than likely, these ley lines and these streams of water that Cody was alluding to earlier with these ancient megalithic structures. They need pyramids, Yes, we need water to live. Where there's water, there's life. But the pyramids and everything have a special connection to us, and people are just not getting it. It's just not there anymore. We've lost our way. So, could I be onto something? More than likely. And I will say this, just for fun entertainment purposes only. Has anybody seen the footage out there? I'm not going to show it, but there's footage out there, and even Anna Paulina Luna, and all these people of the higher power, they say there's imagery of a pyramid, Cody, a pyramid that flies around in the sky and all this stuff, and we can go and we can debate if it's raw. I mean, I'm serious. They're claiming there's a pyramid that floats around our skies, and that's the capstone of the Giza pyramid. Hello out there, anybody? But yeah, so just think about this. You're literally saying a tetrahedron. It's a pyramid. It's a triangle. There's nothing else to say. It's a tetrahedron. It's a Merkaba. I'm sorry. And then you go to Giza, and you got the three pyramids over there, tetrahedron. We have ancient technology under the ground. They're preserving it. They got sand everywhere, crystal lining. You got silica dust. You got sand in the silica dust. You got everything. We got conductivity. We're cracking off here. It's called ancient antiquity getting ready to burst open. A tetrahedron. Nothing else new under the sun. 7 points, 8 points. Here we go. You got the 8 points when you got it literally, they call it an eight-sided pyramid for one reason. Think about what I'm saying, Cody. And when you see it from an aerial view, the shadow, it looks like it looks like 8 points. So here we go. We got a Merkaba. We got an 8-pointed. There we go. I mean, there's nothing else to say. Let's go, Cody. What do you have to say? I don't want to go too long here. What do you got to say about that, man? We still got a little bit more to share here, folks. So stay tuned.
Yeah,
What do you think about this, my friend?
man, it reminds me. Well, the Merkaba, that star reminds me of the Star of Ishtar and Anna, from Sumerian understanding. But it makes me think of the Sumerian god Enki, and how he was the god of subterranean waters, and he was like ruling over the Absu. That there's that water again, and how their pyramids were flat topped. Did there ever? I mean, it makes you think, because that's where the priest would meet with the god. You're saying that the what's it called? The point, the capstone is going in and out. It makes you think like, oh, hypothetically, what if it's flat for the capstone to come down when they were interacting, with the entity you're talking about, anchoring, soul anchoring. That's a occult practicing, with the different stars, the different planets, all that stuff. It just gets my mind going like crazy. And it's interesting too, because in the oldest flood text, the Eridu Genesis, it's a cuneiform clay tablet that they found. Interestingly enough, it was the first 5 cities that were built were each given to a different god as their to be in charge of those cities. And it said that the first task that they kind of had was to clear out the purple wind-borne mud from all of the rivers and to begin irrigation. That's the first task, was those waters. And you have, Enki being the one, and in Leo, they were very much interacting with these humans, teaching them exactly where those cities needed to be, teaching them exactly how to do the purification rituals so they would be pure sites for divination. I mean, it's like same with the Aztecs being led to specific spots by specific entities, rebuilding the same pyramid on itself 7 times. There's a specific reason for these locations, and they were chosen by these entities. And man, it's crazy. It's crazy to hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the chat are liking what you have to say too. So I'll have to have you back on. I have to have you back on indeed. So I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like to have you back on here, Cody. But we're not done yet, folks. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. And when I think about everything that's going on in the news and all the UAP and UFOs and anything goes, like I always say here on the channel, we have this Roswell incident that happened back in the 1940s, 1947 to be correct. And I just want to throw this out here, Cody, because I want to really set something up here about this mysterious metallic disc crashes northwest of Roswell during a severe electrical storm. Okay, this rancher named Mac Brazel, discovers highly anomalous lightweight foil that cannot be cut or burned. Military initially releases a statement confirming a flying disc recovery, but is ordered to recant. So I just want to throw this out here, my friend, in all walks of life. When I think about this, I know it really did happen. The more I think about it, because I can actually prove something that actually was just thrown out here in the UFO documents. When I look at this and I hear the, in quote, flying disc, okay, when I hear flying disc and I hear the term weather balloon, okay, when I hear Hobby Lobby balloons and they get shot with a $400,000 rocket, I see some manipulation staring back at me, right? And when you look back and you see the whole storyline of this, the field of, there was this field of strange debris, rubber strips, tin foil, tough paper, and sticks near Roswell, New Mexico during the account. Well, you know, when I think about this, how much more could we really talk about this? Because a lot of people have heard this story over and over again, Cody, and I have myself, and I'm just like, man, it's almost tiresome, really. But when I think about the Roswell incident, and I think about what is going on here with the new information that's just dropped, there's something here so compelling that has really just struck my interest here to incorporate that. And this is what has been talked about here in the new documents. There was some in the war documents that was the Department of War that released the UFO. They classified or declassified a bunch of information between May the 8th through the 22nd of May, just recently here. And this second tranche of files was released in May the 22nd, included a massive 116-page investigation file regarding Sandia-based New Mexico. Okay, it's highly classified atomic weapons installation located just short distance from Roswell. So the contents of this was the files track an intense concentrated wave. Just hear this out, Cody. It's insane. Of 209 separate military sightings, end quote, green orbs, metal disc, and fireballs maneuvering directly over the nuclear facilities immediately following the Roswell incident. They're saying the significance of this file that shows even after the military publicly closed the book on Roswell as a balloon, the intelligence community remained on high alert, deeply plagued with unexplained aerial phenomena clustering around America's most sensitive military infrastructure. So weather balloons, all that good stuff, all that, they use those code words, and I think that code word was tied back. I can't remember the specific date they started using the term balloon, but that is literally identifying some type of physical shot, some kind of physical object, pyramid, cylinder shape, some type of flying disc. That's correct. So I want people to really understand that for the future of their well-being, to not go insane when they said there was a Hobby Lobby balloon. That actually did happen, Cody. So when I see this right here and I think about this, Cody, and I'm looking at the green orb. So has anybody seen what's happened recently in the news? And Cody, I'm going to share this screen real quick here, and let's play this for you to see it, my friend. 1 second for everybody here. I'm going to share it with Cody so he can see it. And we're going to watch this clip here together. So did y'all know that this, what you see on the screen I'm getting ready to show, is a live stream reveals, this is yesterday, a mysterious green fireball crashing to Earth during a volcanic eruption in the Philippines. So check this out. There's no sound, but it's going to be at the 15-second mark. You'll see a green orb crashed in on the right side of the screen here. Let me know what you guys think. Are we looking at something here? There it is. Did you see that, Cody?
Oh, yeah.
How much bizarre, because I've heard this many times, many podcasters out there, coast to coast guys, anybody out there, whistleblowers, three-letter agencies, there's some direct connection with something to do with volcanic eruptions. This has happened many times before. I've seen it in Hawaii. I've seen everything happening. So you have this green orb coming down, and they wanted everybody to know from this video, if you look it up, it didn't directly hit the volcano, but my point is, it's around it. It's in the circumference, close proximity, okay? Either way you look at it, that camera's showing the footage of this volcano erupting and this green light special comes out of the sky. Maybe somebody, the powers that be, knew what to do. Cody, I know you know what I'm talking about when they told all the Kentuckians to put green lights in their sockets to mourn the dead. But hey, what do I know? And, the Emerald Tablets and all the nonsense. Don't go too far, Cody. We got to watch what we say here. I know you're shaking your head. But the green light and the Emerald Tablets, and you was talking about the cuneiform tablets and all these things, there's something about this emerald tablet, this emerald color that goes back to even Atlantis and actually tied to the giants. So what I'm looking here on the screen here, folks, I'm thinking it's directly tied to what they're alluding to here in this files. So what is your comments on this there, Cody?
Man, I've thought about stuff like this a lot, trying to reason what like shooting stars or meteors or any of that stuff is within the biblical uh, cosmological understanding, and what it would look like for when Christ talks about like how he beheld Satan falling like lightning. I would think that the manifestation of some sort of spiritual entity into this reality or into this dimension or whatever you want to would call it would have some sort of reaction and witness from heaven and earth. It makes me think of specifically with volcanoes. The ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans attributed those to Vulcan and Hephaestus, and they believed that the lava and the heat and all of that was indicative of basically a like blacksmith operation going on under the ground. If you know who Vulcan is or Hephaestus, their representation. But there's definitely something with volcanoes, and there's a spiritual connotation to them. Their activity, what sets them off, seismology, what's going on under the ground, what's even farther below them, their kind of symbology in reference to like the cosmic mountain. There's a ton of stuff spiritually linked to ancient understandings of volcanoes. So it's not surprising to see stuff like that kind of manifesting around. Personally, I wonder with a lot of this disclosure, something like that, you can kind of manipulate your audience into thinking it might be something else, or, just by putting it in the disclosure files. I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing is even our own craft that we have reverse engineered, because in every single religion, every single mythology, this information, whatever it may be, to ultimately worship these entities or to work for them or to provide breeding programs or whatever it may be, the information is given over. It's a desire of these entities to impart this knowledge on to human beings so that they can commune easier, so that we can transgress easier, to do things we don't even understand are an abomination. It's quite the deception, and now you add on the possibility of people believing that these are coming from other planets. There's other life. How does that fit in with Genesis? How does that fit in with God's plan? Did Jesus' sacrifice, does it cover you if you live on Mars? I mean, did he just die for the people on Earth? There's so many things that you can just really start to unravel if you're not anchored into the truths that we know about our reality and the world that we live in. But there's also intense truth to that. I mean, something just slammed into the back of that volcano or in that proximity, and there's a spiritual heightening going on. So it's undeniable. It's definitely something.
Well, it's interesting to me that the missing scientists and all that's going on, it's really kind of hush hush. It's really kind of controversial. A lot of people out there have been very scared to even tackle that topic. I know for 1,000% fact, one of the individuals there, the woman and I think another woman, was trying to. I think they made one of the hardest metal alloyed. They was able to do something that was never done before, and it could take on a volcanic. I mean, I'm talking about the hottest of heat, beyond nuclear. It could take on any type of heat that you throw at it. So it's kind of interesting. And I thought that I read that it lit up green, but don't hold me to that, and that's why it was kind of interesting. So just kind of
Yeah.
tying that in and connecting the dots there, not to get too far into that topic. So let's change. Speaking of the entity, speaking of all the nonsense, Cody, and everything that's going on, we got a few more things here to talk about. I'm not going to show the video, but we can see there it's Stephen Greer. But I'm going to read what was highlighted here on the video that he just came out and talked about. We all know Stephen Greer. We've talked about him many times here on the program. I have nothing negative to say about the man at all. I know that he's been trying his best to get ufologists to really wake up and actually look into this in more of a depth. And he's done a lot of big studies on it. Okay, so a lot of people disagree with him, what have you. But let's just read what he says here. So, we mentioned four documented that let's just say the powers that be are emitting the Nordics, the reptilians, the Greys, and I think what was the other one? Cody, help me out here. There's one more. The Greys, the Nordics, the reptilians, the mantis, the manatee, the manatees. Yeah, the mantis people. Okay, so on this, he says on this video just recently, there are at least 69 different alien species documented since the 1960s, ranging from 1.5 feet tall to 40 feet tall. He forgot the 10-foot tall and bulletproof Randy Travis country singer. Yeah, but he remember that. I don't know if you remember that musician speaking that song, but I had to go. Sorry about that, folks. I had to. There's my squirrel moment. So my most are bipedal with humanoid structures, but show huge diversity in form and size because they come from different star systems. Greer also explains some are foot and a half tall, some reported to be 10 to 12 feet tall to his knowledge. He adds that what we often see as spooky aliens in media may actually be bioengineered robotic entities. On human ET relations, Greer stresses moving beyond the division. Our motto is one universe, one people. I hate the word alien because it connotes forgiveness and exophobia. Usually use the word ET, people, or ET, civilization. He ties it to consciousness in that deep level of pure, quiet consciousness or spirit. The total number of minds in the universe is one, the oneness, okay? And then, this individual says that is their singularity. So, you hear the term singularity, you hear this whole thing, you hear about the AI technology, you hear about UFO technology, and we're looking at something here that's been giving to humans to maybe put us in a cage. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. I always reference that on here on the channel, but it's interesting that the musicians back in the day knew what was going to happen. It's just one of those days, right? But it's interesting that we went from 4, and Stephen Greer's saying 69. I know some other folks on some other that are big ufologists are saying there's like 200 something. It's almost like, how much more can we go? Is it, you have the 36 tribes of the giants, the biblical count. We got all these different mixed bag of categories of individuals out there. And what are we really looking at here? So, what I want to throw out here, Cody, before we stay on that with this, before we move on, you have anything to say about Mr. Greer? What do you think about the 69 and the different height? We got a 1.5 foot all the way to 40 foot. So what do you think about that, Cody?
I mean, man, I think it talks about whenever it gets closer to Christ's return, that it's as in the days of Noah. And there was all sorts of manipulation going on, genetic corrupting, all life, animal, human, stuff we couldn't even think of. So I definitely, I don't know about that guy to be honest. But I do know that the leopard priests in South America, that bloodline that were more in tune spiritually, they said that they could, that they had spirit animals, but they could shapeshift. This is documented in other spiritual understandings. So even if it may have looked like something, I think that these spiritual entities can also, appear as other things. So I think it would be hard to tell how many there actually were, all the different variations. I couldn't tell you, but I wouldn't be surprised of all the different different possibilities to that.
Well said there, Cody. Well said. Well, I want to throw something out here before we wind down. We got a few more things to talk about. What's your take on the Operation Majestic 12, Cody? I'm gonna let you talk on this one. I know you probably know a lot about it since you mentioned Dwight Eisenhower. I'll let the folks know what you know about the Majestic 12, and then we'll take off from there.
Man, I was reading about that today actually, and it's it's always it's always interesting to read something um, from that long ago. A lot of these things, we're seeing these videos or these documents that were declassified, and then you're looking at the date on them, and you're like, "What? You know, this is so bizarre that this is something that they were writing about, talking about back then." I did think it was interesting that the um, Majestic 12 was after the 33rd president, Harry S. Truman. I do think that whole thing with Truman and then with Eisenhower was very interesting, especially with what his great granddaughter came out talking about, that she was. I don't know if it was just claims, but she was, saying that they had agreements with these entities, that they were working out deals and stuff, but they were definitely making it seem like a something that they very much so thought was real. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was. Let's see here. I'm trying to see how many people were actually. Let's see. Were actually. Where is it? I had the page open. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, people have tried to say that it was fake. A lot of the stuff, they tried to kind of shut it down, say that it wasn't real, say that the stuff that they were talking about was nonsense. I think it's to kind of try to I'm trying to think of the word, not negate the authenticity of it, but make people just kind of read it and just be like, um, but yeah, I mean, they were just really just investigating lots of different spacecrafts, that I think that they probably only showed us a little bit of what they were really understanding. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just top secret stuff that the government was doing during that time period, and I guess it didn't brief until the '80s. So even
Mm-hmm.
then, that stuff coming out, it's crazy that it takes that long to come to the public eye. But I
Well,
think it's wild. I don't know if you want to kind of elucidate on the actual. I'm not too sure on the like the origin of why and who was the first one that actually said, we're forming this, and how they chose these 12, what their kind of credentials were. Um, I don't know if you've looked into that.
well, what I've would just kind of sum it up and kind of conclude on it is a committee of scientists, military leaders, and then government officials formed in this 1947 narrative, executive order from Mr. Truman, and then according to the legend, you have a group of people that was created to facilitate a recovery investigation, covering up alien spacecraft. I think, just saying it, and most notably, I think it was the wreckage from the Roswell incident. And I'm thinking, I'm over here going, history, myth, conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it. I think that might be the individuals that had this whole area. There's a time window from the 1940s into the 50s, and they're saying there's a breakaway civilization. Okay, Cody, come on. I'm just throwing it out there. Could there be some type of direct tie-in because these guys was there to look and they're trying to study this, the exact type of information here, and trying to help out? I think the one individual I got it just popped up here, three-letter agency, Mr. Admiral Roscoe Helicotter, I think Helicotter, I think that's how you pronounce it. They're very interesting names. Dodger Bush, James Forrestal, Nathan Twining, and then Vanderberg, and then there was all kinds of individuals that they had tie-ins to. Once again, aeronautical engineering, some type of aerial phenomenon. Like they had ability navigation. They knew things, right? They knew more things than the average person. And then the individual that points me out here is a military officer involved in advanced logistics. And then also the other one, Mr. Menzel, a Harvard astronomer who was publicly or a famous UFO skeptic, but allegedly a covert asset. So then also Mr. General Robert Moncoud, I can't pronounce it because I can't see it, and commander of this Sandy Base atomic weapon project. So just like the project, the Sandia Base atomic weapons of that particular base in New Mexico, all these individuals had ties to this. So what is going on? That's the original. There's a bunch of original 12 there, and then you also have the James Forstall. We've talked about him many times here on the channel and over there in on FOJC, but this other one that really catches my eye too is the twinning, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. He had commander of Air Material Command and Wright Patterson AFB, later chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So there's all this correlation with technological advancements, okay? And they all had knowledge privy to, we can either say it's verifiable. A lot of, like you said, people are saying it's a hoax, what have you. And then there's a lot of documents out there, people saying it's completely fabricated. But why, if you had the ability, right, Cody, just think about this. If you knew and you found something so secretive, so dark, let's just say Black Ops project or secret space program, whatever it is, and you had something so interesting and right in front of you, right? And you see miraculous things, I mean, on a quantum level, what have you, and you can harness that energy, harness that technology, and you could build something upon it with all the men that you had upon you, and you had this information. And I even think they had some type of spiritual application. I think they all was Christian, if I'm not mistaken, Cody. I might be wrong on that, but I think they had a little bit of tie-in when it comes to religion. So if you had the ability to build something, and I'm not alluding that they have done this, but it's kind of interesting. Did they have the ability to do something secretly behind the veil? And maybe that's what we got going on here. Maybe there's so many things happening, and maybe the authenticity of it, and people not being able to either tell it's fabricated, conspiracy, what have you. There you go. But can y'all tell, folks? I'm losing my wind a little bit. It might be time for Cody to step it up to the plate. I'm just kidding, Cody. What a phenomenal load of information you've been able to give the audience and myself tonight. You have blessed me abundantly and helped me out during this time.
I'm sorry, I don't know more about.
No. But I'm just saying, on the 12, I think there's something here tied back to this whole breakaway civilization. The timing on it is just, it's so telling, the time frame, that this can't be a coincidence. There's just no reason. This is not before, I think the 1941 or 1949, one of them met their demise. And that's the same year that the astronomer, Miss Beatrice, she was studying this artificial, some kind of dome above the sky with these light refractions we've talked about many times on the channel. And I think it was 1949 to like 1958. So the timing on this, these individuals that had abilities with ingenuity and things that you could see in the sky, they had all these things, all these abilities, Wright Patterson Air Base, all these different things. They had to be privy to this knowledge. They had to have something. Somebody had to know something. Let's just feed the facts. If Mrs. Beatrice can find it here in 2025, in the last year when she started bringing that out, that peer review report, they knew it back then, Cody. They had to have known it, man. There's no way around it.
It seems the time too, you wonder, because we only have a look back through like newspaper clippings and articles and stuff. But you wonder what the buzz was during that time too, because the ending of World War II, all the talk of the Third Reich moving to other areas. I mean, there was talk of New Schwabenland, different stuff. Then you have Admiral Byrd going to, in 47, I think, his operation, was it high jump, but he was doing his Antarctic voyage and having interactions with, different craft and stuff. And so then, like, I didn't realize there was a paper between Oppenheimer and Einstein talking about this stuff, about assimilating humans and whatever these entities were. But they have a positive kind of vibe towards it. It's almost like they're trying to prime the collective population, and manipulate them to be ready for what they're calling something positive. Oh, we need to see what these are. We need to, like, it definitely seems like there was a kind of a push behind that. And I can't help but think about Crowley doing this stuff at the same time. So we're just seeing like these doors to the spiritual opened, this stuff, ushering in um, around severe wartime, and then that overload of information, kind of like we're in a war right now, and there's this overload of information where people just don't even really care. It doesn't even kind of phase people now that you're going on X and going on Facebook and seeing these videos and these crafts. People are just like, it's just, oh, what's new? We understand this. We understand it's real. We don't know what it is, and you just kind of move on. It's just like an overload. And so, I even think about the prophecies to come on how when those entities under the Euphrates are released, the chained angels, or however you want to look at it, it talks about in Enoch that they'll be hurled towards the Medes and the Persians or the Parthenon. I can't remember what it says, but to get the kings ready to go to war. So even in the very end, these entities are going to influence human kings to go to war. I don't know, man, but I think that it's a weird thing to see all around that time period, and yeah, it's very interesting.
Wow. Wow. It is interesting. Well, we went a little longer than I expected. I got one more thing to talk about here, Cody, and we haven't. I don't think we lost too many people here, but hey, welcome to the channel, everybody. And I know that there's another broadcast going on right there. Brother David's live on the other side, but we're going to be continuing on. I just got a few more minutes of your time, folks, and thank y'all so very much. I just want to be out of respect of everybody. I've seen people's comments, so God bless you guys, and thank y'all for being here. But hey, we got one more thing to talk about. I didn't realize it was over top the 8 o'clock window, but hey, that's how me and Cody roll. That's how we roll.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's my fault, everybody. So just don't hurt the guest. Just hurt the host. So one more thing here. One more thing. Cody, did you see the 3-letter agency here talking about the ancestry? Let's just say ancestry, the 23andMe, and their the claim is it's all over X talking about hunting down alien bloodlines and millions of DNA tests. And Cody, before you say anything, this is one of those controversial types of topics that we need to watch what we say, because we can't talk about certain things that happened the last 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I just want to throw this out here, folks. I remember this very, very clearly. Okay. I knew that there was something going down. The story about this is, Cody, an audience out there, they're talking about the Nordics. The claim is the Nordics have been interbreeding with humanity. Well, guess what? Everybody out there that's watched this channel, even had, when me and Cody's talked in the past on other platforms, the sons of God made with the daughters of men, they took wives as they chose. We're talking about Genesis 6, verse 4, all day long here. There's nothing new in the sun. I'm sorry, but this is what's happening, okay? Well, Cody, we have these, let's just say Ancestry and 23andMe, and these bloodline millions of DNA tests. And I just will say this. I remember very specifically the days it all started, and I used to be a milkman before you see what you see today, the visual disturbance side of things. I remember very specifically going into a Family Dollar, believe it or not. I had to deliver milk, and there was these brochures talking about the incentive to get this done, to see where your heritage is, your genealogy, okay? And you get a certain amount of coupon code to pay for whatever, okay? Which if you have $100, I can't remember what it was. It was either 5% off, 10% off, or something like that. It wasn't really that, let's just say, enticing, okay? I remember the individual that worked there, the manager was like, Brian, this is something else, Brian. He was really intuitive back then too. And he goes, this is a play. And I said, yeah, I do know it's a play. I'm just saying, I'm not accusing any companies of anything, but back then I did say, I said, this is very interesting. This is happening in 2016. Well, little did I know this is all going to happen in 2020. And I remember Cody, I'll never forget it. I remember there was a certain country that inquired about these, let's just say, swabs. Okay, let me use that term. I'm pretty sure they dropped the 300 million, and this was just for America on the first test on those. Okay, that I remember this. Here I am in 2026, and I'm thinking about everything that has been done in the last 5 or 6 years, and I got to watch what I say. And has it been something of a nefarious plot, a twist that this is the way that they would persuade us to make it easy, like you said earlier, to make us dumb down and let's just be desensitized to everything and cause us to participate in something so they could get something in return. I'm just saying, it makes me wonder. It really makes me wonder. So here we go. We got some type of weirdness going on with the powers that be. They're claiming this is on the Daily Mail, mind you, and they're saying they're looking for alien DNA in humans. Here we go once again, Cody. What do we have here? What is going on? Is this tied back to antiquity? Yes, it tied back to everything we talked about, everything we've covered here tonight. This pretty much puts the stamp of approval that we have something seriously wrong in our society, something seriously wrong in our world. And this is the thing where I want to end off on the principalities of wickedness. This is one of those moments in time when you believe in the Most High, the King of Kings. You look at the spiritual application. You look at when you have the full armor of God on. You talk about earlier when we talk about the container. We talk about this specialness of our soul, the soul capability. They're interested in our soul. Okay. It's interesting that these powers that be want to literally promote all these things that tries to make us give over our free will and tear us down, and it's evil intentions. It's psychological warfare on steroids 24/7. So Cody, I'm gonna give the reins to you. What do you think about this bloodline claim that they're hunting down humans, that they've been merging with Nordics, and they didn't even these ancestors, the descendants have no clue that they're supposedly have this Nordic DNA. What's your take on that? Do you think it's all just all a big hogwash and just a bunch of conspiracy? But why would all this stuff happen in the timing of 2026 with all this disclosure? Why is the Nordics coming at? Why is this whole even? Why did you even associate one of the alien species with this whole DNA scenario? What's going on here?
Man, I mean, it's all over antiquity, like you said. Like in the story of Zeus and Europa. He manifests as a white bull while she's down in the ocean. I mean, there's trickery and shape shifting and manipulation of perception to then breed in these old myths. In the Aztec and different lore like that, it says that it's the blood of the gods, that they pour forth and they mix with soil, and that's the big deception is bloodlines coming, and I think that's it's a dangerous one, because ultimately we know in the Bible that it's not our blood and our lineage and our heritage that makes us special. That Christ talks about how he could raise up sons to Abraham from the stones. You know what I mean? And that seems like that there is a group of people over in the Middle East, and they believe that their bloodline makes them very, very special. And we know that it's through Christ and through his blood is what makes us that chosen generation and grafts us into Israel and into his people. And so I think on the flip side of that, these entities, whether it's the Tuatha De Danann, whether it's whoever, whatever, wherever, where there's a spiritual kind of masking to then claim that they came from you. I mean, it's just trying to usurp the worship that belongs to God. And that's what it seems like it's always been. I think, ever straight out the garden, Cain wasn't just running from his other couple family members. If you really, really look at Genesis, the creation account, it seems that six-day man was outside of the garden, and that there was a whole lot of stuff going on that had nothing to do with Adam while he was within the garden, tending the garden. But once, Cain was out there and found that out, a lot of his descendants did mix with not only six-day man, but these entities, these fallen. And so I think that there's probably a big chance that there are people out there that do have some crazy stuff in their bloodline. I mean, there are people who can think about orbs and they'll show up. There are people who are more spiritually inclined to interact and to be kind of a medium. It's stuff we don't understand, and I do think that they're being kind of hunted for because if they have more of those magical um, possibilities because of the amount of like whatever blood they do have, that would be something that these people would be interested in and interested. They've been doing tests. Hitler and Himmler and all of them, they were doing tests on people, looking into this stuff, looking into what makes somebody telepathic. And yeah, man, I think it's high mysticism, and it's coming down to that boiling point that we knew it would in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. So um, I think that we just need to really understand, where we are in time, and to really understand that none of that matters. It doesn't matter who there are curses and there are strongholds spiritually that do come from, your ancestors or your family members' decisions, but those are things that can be broken and set free through Christ. So, I wouldn't, if somebody, I've seen people really up in arms because they get a blood panel and they have, what is it, O negative blood type. That's the really weird one. And they start freaking out, and it starts making them have, you know, kind of some doubts and wrestle with God in certain ways. And I think that's what all of this is to kind of wrestle with what we don't understand, especially if we're not in the Word, especially if we're not really um, having a relationship with God. It is easy to kind of get pulled in and deceived if you're not grounded. So I think that there is a search for specific bloodlines. I think that the disembodied spirits probably can utilize a suit that is more pure to that bloodline. And I don't know, the iron mixed with clay. I don't fully understand the ability for a spirit to enter into AI. I think it's a very, very kind of vast topic, but it's a dangerous one. So it is scary to see that come out and to see what you kind of had feared. Where what are they doing with that blood? What are they doing with the swabs? What are they doing? You know, with all of this stuff. So it's definitely a serious and a dark thing, man.
Well, I just want to add this real quick before we conclude our broadcast. Cody, I think not only if there's people that are just doing the right thing and nothing, there's been supernatural protection. I think it's location when these individuals just show up to an unknown territory or invited to this territory or go on vacation somewhere, stuff gets activated. I know that from people that I know and talked to in testimonies, something happens and it gets awoken up into something happens. There's some type of, I don't know, exchange of knowledge, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Something resonates with the blood, the ancestral bloodline, this epigenetics. Something goes back and they're able to demonstrate power, stuff that they've never been able to do before. I've seen that. So that's a whole nother, for a whole nother broadcast. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I would say this has been a very informative broadcast. Cody, I want to thank you for so much for your time. We went 2 hours. I went way over the time limit. I wanted to close it off
Oh
at
man,
8 p.m., but thank you for your time so very much, man, and taking away from your family. And what an honor. I mean, I'm super honored that you came on tonight. It helped me out with my jaw because I really am. It's starting to lock up right now. I'm having a little bit more. I'm kind of coming down to the end game here. The carpet just caught on fire, that kind of thing, and red carpet treatment's broken down. But yeah, it's all good, man. I just want to thank folks out there for believing in me and believing in Mr. Cody here to come on here. Cody's got a lot of very, very interesting things working on. I've been giving him a hard time. I was going to do a little shameless plug. He's a writer. He just don't know it. He's a writer. He's writing something, and here in one of these days we'll talk about that more in depth. But he's not using AI to do it. He's writing it by his own hand and getting carpal tunnel. So we'll we'll make sure that we promote that in the near future and talk about that down at a later date. And I hope you didn't care that I mentioned that here for the program for
Oh,
Mr. Cody Cox here, folks. He's on Facebook. I tagged him in my Visual Disturbance Facebook. You can see him in the tag. Follow him on Facebook if you want to get an opportunity to know what Mr. Cody's all about. But Cody, do you have any closing words here before we jump off here and we conclude the broadcast? Anything you got to share on your heart before we jump off here, my friend?
yeah, man. I definitely do. You know, leading up to usually anytime I've done an interview, um, whether on any of these channels, there is a spiritual attacks that kind of will start to pop up, and I always know um, when something needs to be said because you start seeing it fire off. And man, I'd even texted you asking for prayer because I had some very interesting uh, spiritual kind of attack occur. And so I knew I was supposed to do this tonight. We were, supposed to have this conversation because I think that you and David and John and you guys are just doing what needs to be done, saying what needs to be said. And there's so much information out there, and there's so much to really pour through. It is overwhelming. And so to have people covering different things, like so much about these topics, and so it's good to be able to listen to somebody who has a biblical perspective, but doesn't just shoot it down and say, oh no, this, don't look into this, don't look into that, because these kids, man, they're being raised with their phone and they're seeing it all, and they need stuff to make sense, and they're experiencing real spiritual experiences, whether it is on whatever hallucinogens or whether it's Ouija board. They're still experiencing stuff, and they're being manipulated, not knowing that it's demonic, not knowing that it's not of God. And so I think now is the most important time to shine that light and to really just be men of God, be strong men of God. And you inspire me all the time, man. I know you're thorn in your side that you deal with, and we're praying for you, brother. We're thankful for you, and you've got a lot of prayer warriors that have your back. And so I'm blessed to be on here and for you to think of me and kind of ramble on and what God's shown me in my life. And I'm hoping my book will be that I can close it out this year and get it out there. Just new stuff keeps coming up, man. And then I'm like, oh, well, I got to go back and include this because, there's just new stuff coming out every day. So I think we just got to keep our eye on the prize, not let us be worn down, and to just really be available to others, because man, it's getting kind of hairy out there.
Yes, it is, and I thank you for all the just kind words and encouragement there, Cody. A lot of people don't know this about me, that I'll I like to help others, and I try my best, and I'll just run myself into the ground. If I've got no eyesight, no legs, whatever the case is, if I'm completely just turned into in a vegetable state, which sometimes I'm completely just debilitated, and I pushed myself tonight because I asked you to be on the broadcast. I asked you to help me out, and that you come on here and assist in a way. And you did a fabulous job, my friend. I'm super thankful. You had so much to throw at the table and add to it and add to the conversation. It was a fantastic conversation, and helped me, assist me, and to make it a very enjoyable broadcast. And especially with the teeth and my jaw and everything going on. I'm going to try to do like 1 week segments, give myself time to rest my mouth and everything, because I can't afford this stuff until there's really nothing to do. I just got to do a waiting game right now until I get the money to be able to figure out this procedure that needs to be done with my mouth and all this teeth situation. So it's kind of like it flares up, it goes back and forth, and I think tonight I persevered through it and endured it. But hopefully, you know what would be good about this, Cody? When I get off the phone tonight, or off the air here tonight, I can just look at the kids and do sign language. They taught me a few things. I don't know much. They don't know much. My kids know sign language, and I might have to end up doing that tonight because my jaw's gonna be hurting me so bad. So, but I'm a failure at that. But I try to tackle anything. So I thank you all so very much for the prayers and the blessings, and especially just everything, even you, Cody, and everybody in the chat, and everybody donating and asking, and just prayers and wanting to really ask me how I'm doing. There's so many emails and stuff that I haven't been able to get to, but I'm trying to endure. You'll see me around. I'll help David when I can, and I'll have probably 1 week shows, for a while, and unless something DEFCON 10 happens and the mothership shows up, the Merkabas come out of the cracks and crevices of the earth. Here we go. But I'll probably do 1 week live every so often, and try to stretch it that far so I can rest myself. So these long, lengthy broadcasts. So you might see a video pop up, folks, off and on. And just subscribe, share it out. If I do like a 2-minute video, please, because it helps with the algorithm. But other than that, Cody, we might have to do this more often than just. We might have to make this like a monthly thing if you want to take away from. I don't want to take away from your family, but we can do a monthly thing. And yeah, I'm very open to the conversation. You can pick a topic, and we can come on here live. And I don't have many guests on, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. But I consider you a brother, and I can't wait to meet you in person, man. I can only see you through the screen. But hopefully I'll get to come to Texas one of these days and get to see you in the flesh and get to break bread and just fellowship with you. So other than that, Cody, I usually say this thing toward the end of the broadcast. I always say good afternoon, good evening, good night. And I appreciate you, Cody. I'm going to end everybody out of here. And thanks for your closing words. And thank you for your time once again. We might have to make a set a date for another schedule here for this. And folks, everybody out there, they are hiding it. They are completely hiding it. This UFO disclosure will change everything. But I will say this, folks. I will say this. When I go out in public, it's very hard to see folks being cognitively steered in so many different directions to where they are literally, like Cody was saying earlier, desensitized or overwhelmed, and they have so much anger, bitterness, and anxiety and fear. And I go through it too. But I try my best to be a light to this world, and I hope y'all get that out of the visual disturbance community. But share this out, subscribe, all this stuff, and thank y'all so very much. My mouth is running a little slow here. I want to thank y'all so very much for being part of the channel. Hit me up all of the social media platforms, and I'll see you on the next one for sure. But like I say all the time, just in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody. Welcome to Visual Disturbance channel, and I'm out of here. See you on the next one. Visual Disturbance, I am out. Oh, one other thing. My Uncle Willie. If you're watching, my friend, nothing but blessings. I love you like a father and my brother in Christ. So, Uncle Willie, keep it fresh, keep it real, and I hope to get you out of that facility that you're in. So, Uncle Willie, big shout out to you. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Blessings, everybody.
I've got one that can see.